Men, and I use the term loosely, of course. I've been remiss with making videos lately. I spent 3 or 4 days out here working on this, and I didn't video any of it. Most of it, well, it wasn't full days. Most of it was that little odds and ends bullshit that you got to take care of. Like finishing up wiring and putting the taillight lens on and the taillight bulb socket back in, made a couple little parts. But anyway, you may be wondering what's up with this red funnel over here. As you may recall from an earlier video, I thought the clutch felt a little funny, so I took the primary apart, and I'm glad I did. But anyway, while the clutch was out, I decided to see how the cable felt with no load on it at either end. And I guess I'm not really surprised, but I could not even move the clutch cable. It was stuck solid just about in the housing. So what I did was remove the handle and then ferrule on the end, etc., etc., and I tape a funnel to the end of the cable. And I do that so that I could fill the funnel up with oil of some kind or another. Trying to get the tape off over here. But anyway, filled it up with oil. Had to kind of force it to get it to start moving at all. Finally got it freed up. And fill the funnel up about halfway with straight weight motor oil, and let it set overnight. And eventually all the oil drained through and came out the bottom, which is what I wanted it to do, of course, so we could get rid of the funnel and the tape. Maybe cut myself to pieces over here. Boy, that's some good tape. My buddy up in Canada, the other Gary from Siberian Cycles, he gave me a Christmas present. That was last year or the year before, and like a mechanic's care package, and one of the things that was in it was this tape. Man, this is the toughest electrical tape I have ever seen. It does not want to come off of there. Holy moly. It will come off eventually. Fuck. Trying to cut the tape and not cut the vinyl on the cable housing. Man, you think you would just be able to unpeel it. Son of a bitch. Ay, ay, ay. I'm going to cut myself here if I'm not careful. Alright, the tape is off. There we go. But anyway, could not move the inner wire at all, and I got it freed up pretty well. New clutch is coming. Should be here in a little while. And we're going to put the clutch and the primary back together again today and carry on with this project. I don't know if it's obvious or whether you remember from the last video, but when I pulled the primary cover off, this was black in here. Really black, nasty. And usually primaries are fairly clean. Well, if you recall, I stated that this was worn out and loose, so I had to pull the basket and the sprocket off to get the adjuster out. When I got the basket and the sprocket off, I found that the seal, the sprocket shaft seal, was completely ripped in two, so engine oil was freely flowing back and forth, which I think is why it was so cruddy in here. But anyway, had to replace that, had to replace this. The bushing on the Kickstarter gear was all worn out, so I had to put a new bushing in there, which had to be machined to the correct internal diameter to match the spacer. And usually on Harley bushings, they come a little oversized, a little undersized, and they need a little machining to get them to work, so I took care of that. Right here is the reset knob for the speedo. This was broken off and the cable was just kind of sitting in there. I was able to chuck the cable up in my lathe, shorten this brass nut over here, shorten the effective length of it by machining it round and tapping some threads on it. I had to make a new nut with a hole just the right size in the end to retain this hunk of cable, made a new knob, so now the reset will work. When I put the Bendix carb on, the choke for the Tillotson, of course, wouldn't work with the Bendix. So I welded a little tab on the horn mount bracket and put a choke on it. This, of course, is deviating from original, but there really was no choice about it. So anyway, made that. As you may recall, I had previously laced up the rear wheel with the wrong size spokes. Sent those spokes back, got another set of spokes, laced it and trued it up. Of course, the stock Tillotson air cleaner backing plate wouldn't fit on the Bendix carb because the Bendix carb has various protrusions sticking out, so it wouldn't fit flush. So I machined a nice spacer to fit behind the backing plate, so the backing plate will bolt onto the front of the carburetor now. I replaced the nasty old copper mesh on the original air cleaner. It had been burned and melted, of course, because it was only 58 years old or whatever. You could buy copper mesh on Amazon, believe it or not. It's cheap. Why didn't I just buy a new air cleaner element? As it turns out, 66 and earlier, they're a little different size. So the later style air filter elements won't fit in this air cleaner cover. So anyway, got some different mesh, wound it around the old metal framework, and have a new air cleaner. The reason I did it this way, or one of the reasons I did it this way, is so that to the casual observer looking at it, you won't be able to tell. I mean, it's a stock air cleaner and the air cleaner cover, so you know, unless you know what you're looking at in carburetors, it's going to look pretty original. Also replaced all the rubber oil lines. There were a couple of these that were hard to get a clamp on. The supply line on the bottom other side of the tank and the vent line back down in here. But really, this wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. The chain oiler line is still here. I've shut the chain oiler off all the way, and I'm going to recommend to the owner that he just get some spray-on chain lube and go ahead with that. And then there was a bunch of little wiring odds and ends I took care of too. Just, you know, neatening up the bundles, getting them all in the right place, and did that. So the wheels are done and ready for tires. This is Friday after 4th of July, and the bike shop that I have mount my tires is closed today, so tires won't get mounted until next week. But hopefully, like I said, today the clutch plates will show up. I'll put the clutch together, put the primary back together again, get tires mounted on Monday. It might not look like it, but this bike is very close to being road ready again. Despite this disjointed looking mess over here, 2 wires need to get hooked up. A light wire for the speedo, and then a light wire for the new tach when it gets here. I've had a battery hooked up to this and everything works. Well, except for this, I don't know, and the other one that's not hooked up yet. But this is a lot more together than it looks. It's ready to go as soon as I get the new tachometer. The first one I got from VIII was fogged on the inside. I called them up and talked to my my dedicated representative up there, Valerie. Thanks, Valerie. And they're sending me a new tach, and they checked it supposedly and said it's not fogged, so it should be good to go. And I got them to do it for free shipping, which is nice. You know, the shipping is more than a part was. It was really a pretty cheap part. So anyway, we'll put the clutch together a little later, and I'll get back on track with the final videos to this thing, and hopefully we'll be driving it soon. All right, clutch plates. New, old. When I took the cover off, well, this is what they look like. It looks like they have been wet, but when I took the cover off, everything in there was dry. Yeah, these are going to work a lot better, I'm sure. You got your timing mark on the hub. You line it up with the big dot on the releasing disc. That way all of the studs are exactly in the center of the holes. I'm replacing the old springs just because the old springs have been under tension for, I don't know, at least the last 15 years, maybe since the bike was new. The old ones are just a little bit shorter, like a 32nd of an inch shorter than the new ones. You know, I always thought it was a pain in the ass that Harley had to make these nuts 2 different sizes. And I always wondered why they just couldn't put the long shouldered nuts on every stud. Yep, and that looks good to me. You know, the manual actually says not to put any sealant on this thing. I don't know, I just think there needs to be a little bit. So I use the black silicone sparingly. And these are getting hard to find. So I use lock washers. Alright, I got my alignment studs in the crankcase. I could hang the gasket on there. Alright, gonna let the sealant form up, and I'll be back in about 45 minutes or an hour to tighten the screws the rest of the way. Alright, this has been setting up probably an hour, 45 minutes an hour. Gonna run these screws the rest of the way down. Gonna let the silicone cure for at least 24 hours before I put oil in it. And just the FYI, this is the brake light switch. It works opposite of the way you probably think it works. Right now, if you had the battery, well, it doesn't have a battery. Right now, if the electricity was on and you look at the tail light would be on. When the brake pedal is at its at-rest position, it pushes this in, which breaks the circuit to the light. So the switch is normally on, and like I say, when the brake is at rest, not applied, it pushes on this plunger and it breaks the circuit and cuts off power to the brake light. When you push the pedal down, the switch comes forward and it makes the connection and then turns the brake light on, which is, I think, backwards of the way most people think a brake light switch works. Alright, the clutch lever. I know you can't feel it, but I could feel it. And this is like 1,000 times better than it used to be. Alright, we're going to wrap this video up. The last thing I was trying to do was put in the new tachometer. The tach I got, well, V-Twin replaced the one with the fogged lens, shipped it to me for free. Thanks, Valerie. She's my representative of V-Twin. Unfortunately, that tachometer was not compatible with this bracketry. I mean, I can make it fit, but I'd have to cut the brackets up, and I didn't want to destroy the original parts. So the old broken off needle tack is installed back in there. As it turns out, this is a Smith's tachometer made in the United Kingdom. The later model ones, which I was trying to use, are the Italian version ones, and the mounting arrangement is just different enough that you can't make it work without cutting things up. So to the owner, Mark, I'm leaving you some owner equity here. You take off this one screw, and then you could get this bottom plate off and the tack off. You undo the cable, and this light wire, the light is just popped in there. You don't even have to go underneath here to unhook it. Just pop it out of the case. And if you could find somewhere to rebuild your Smith's tack, that'd probably be the way to go. You got until November, you said. But anyway, that's going to be your project if you so choose to undertake it. And I don't know why. Well, probably because they don't make them anymore. But the Smith's tacks, if you look on eBay, broken ones, people are asking $350. And I know asking ain't getting. But the Italian replacement one I tried to use, that if I wasn't concerned about keeping this thing somewhat original looking, the Italian replacement one was like 40 bucks. Next to nothing really. The genuine Smiths, quite pricey. But anyway, everything that I could put together is put together, except of course for the wheels, which hopefully the bike shop that I get my wheels mounted at will be open on Monday, and I could get the wheels and the tires put together and finish this thing up. And then of course it goes for a nice test ride. So for now, I am out of here. Hey, y'all take it easy, and we'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye. Just a quick reminder. You can help support and grow this channel, first of all and most importantly, by hitting that subscribe button. So if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to do a little more, join me on Patreon. Links down below. So go ahead and join me on Patreon if you feel so inclined. And finally, coffee cups, stickers, and gas tank covers are available. This is a new design coffee cup. I like the old ones, but I like these new ones even better. Links will be provided in the description down below. Get yourself some. And thank you all ever so much for watching these videos. I really appreciate it. Bye.